Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome back to my mini series where I cover movies that were released in January that are actually pretty good. And this week I'm going to be covering a movie that pretty much relaunched Liam Neeson's entire career. It's Taken. This was released in some areas in 2008 and other areas in 2009. It really is dependent on where you were. And it starred Liam Neeson as well as Maggie Grace and Famke Janssen. And if you're watching this video, I don't think I need to go too deep into the plot of Taken. It's Taken. You know what all this movie is about. But the short version is that a man named Brian Mills, played by Liam Neeson, goes on the hunt for his daughter, played by Maggie Grace, who is kidnapped by sex traffickers in Europe, specifically Paris, France, while she and her friend are on vacation together. Up to the point of Taken's release, Liam Neeson had some success, or quite a bit of success, actually. He had been in Schindler's List, nearly won an Oscar for that. He was Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace. He was Aslan in the Chronicles of Narnia movies. So Liam Neeson was far from over the hill. But this was a movie that pretty much set who Liam Neeson was for an entire generation. This is this is a movie that he thought, he being Neeson, it was going to be just a little side project. He actually took the role because he wanted to do something a little more physically demanding than he had been. And he was a second choice after Jeff Bridges had dropped out of the project. Turns out Liam Neeson, he thought it was a side road. It turned out to be a series that spawned an entire trilogy. Spoiler alert, Taken 2 and 3 are awful. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. I love Taken. I love pretty much everything about it. It's one of those action movies that no matter how many times I watch it, I'll never get bored by it. It's one of those movies, it just never gets old for me. And among other things, I love initially just how relatively simple the movie is. It's about a man trying to find his daughter, and that's about it. However, the movie packs a lot into about 90 minutes. First third of the movie is actually pretty front-loaded with meeting Brian Mills, meeting his ex-wife played by Famke Janssen, meeting his daughter played by Maggie Grace, seeing him at his daughter's birthday party, taking a security gig because he's retired from the CIA, learning about the vacation and hating the idea, but because his daughter really wants to go, he decides to let her go anyway. And then at a certain point, specifically this point,
They're going to take you.
Kim, stay focused.
everything goes completely south and the movie switches gears from one thing to basically another thing entirely. The movie's very front-loaded. It has all the exposition, all of the information you need to know about Brian Mills and his family, and then at that point that I've just played in post, the rest of the movie is just Liam Neeson shooting people. That is about it. And no matter how many times I see it, I'm not like, come on, let's get to the shooting part already. The movie is engaging throughout. The movie also doesn't waste too much time going into what Brian Mills did in the CIA. There was a spin-off TV series that I believe went for a couple of seasons. I'll have to look up how many specifically. But it touched on that a little bit, but I think it got canceled. I will add it something in that in post here. But the movie itself doesn't waste too much time with that. It basically scrunches his CIA career to he was a preventer. He prevented bad things from happening. His job was very demanding and taxing, and it pretty much cost him everything. So now he's retired and is trying to make up for lost time and is succeeding in other areas but failing in others. And the movie does a good job of showing that he is trying, but he's done a lot of damage that he just straight up cannot repair. And so the only way that he can really make it up to his daughter is pretty much by saving her. The point that I mentioned all the way through the end, it's Liam Neeson doing his thing, Brian Mills doing his thing, basically being the best the CIA had at the time, and even in retirement, just wrecking shop across Paris and basically exposing a lot of corruption, even at pretty top levels. And the movie doesn't waste too much time being a whole conspiracy minded. It's very much focused on the main line of Brian Mills is trying to save his daughter. It doesn't get distracted in that regard. It touches on things, but it doesn't go too deep into that. In the case of a movie like this, I like the spirit of that. Brian Mills is just straight up terrifying in this movie if you're one of his enemies. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, legit, is when he goes to Rue de Paradis, which is the site of where the guy Marco kidnapped his daughter and his crew. They're there, they're hanging out, and he goes portraying a police officer, and he basically like just rustles their jimmies and basically just says, we turn a blind eye to you, but I can arrest you at any point. Drugs, kidnapping, prostitution, take your pick. Your arrogance offends me. And he just gives them the business. And eventually they're like, give the man his money. He could have walked out with the money right there and no one would have known the difference. But the mood immediately changes when he is like, "Oh, Marco, by the way, someone gave me this. Can you translate it for me?" And when Marco says, "Good luck," which is a callback to what Marco said on the phone after that message.
We spoke on the phone 2 days ago. I told you I would find you.
You're done. You're washed. It's over.
Also, most of the action in this movie is pretty stellar as well. There are a couple car chases that I love. I love me a good ch car chase. The fighting is pretty well filmed as well, something that would be lost in Taken 2 and 3, but I digress on that front. Like I said, the movie just knows exactly what it is, and it stays in that lane, and it succeeds. I'm going to give this an amazing grade. If somehow you've never seen the first Taken, do yourself a favor and see it. Don't watch the sequels, but again, another story, another time. But next week, I'm going to be closing out this series by seeing Liam Neeson going from the hunter to the hunted and staving off a pack of very, very, very hungry wolves. It's the Gray.